since then. Alright, so good morning, guys. Um, it's your boy Brainsy. Welcome to what day is it already? Jesus, 58? I'm not sure. Oh God, it's already day 58. I fucked up. Oops. Welcome to day 58 of Workout Grind. It's currently 6:12 a.m. I slept at 12 a.m., so that means I only have like 6 hours of sleep. And it's 12 a.m. I sleep, not necessarily like exact sleep. I was exactly asleep at that time. It's probably like 6:12. I tried to sleep. 15 to 20 minutes later, I'm sleeping. So that's like what, 12:30. So it's around 5 hours and 30 minutes of actual sleep time. So it's not good. I'm trying to uh balance, or like I'm trying to regulate my sleep, trying to consistently make it to around 7 to 8 hours. Fuck. Oh man, I'm sick as well. I feel like my throat is burning up. That's the first sign of, you know, being sick. Hold on, let me just wash my hair. Oh god. So yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, I'm trying to regulate my sleep uh schedule, but it's always like a catch to me. Like, um, when I sleep late, I was gonna be battling myself. Like, it's either I'm gonna sleep 7 to 8 hours, and the other part of me will be fighting. Will be like, oh no, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. And they're all arguing. They're all arguing. They really want to fight because both of them are right. Then I'm supposed to sleep at 10 and then wake up at 6, you know? So they should be both correct. But the time when I go beyond 10 p.m., like 11, 12 p.m., a.m., I mean, I'll be battling myself. And then when uh, eventually the alarm hits at 6 a.m., I'll be battling myself like, oh no, I slept at 12. I need to sleep a little bit more so I can get the 8 hours of sleep I need. At the time, I will lose every time. Like, I think it was like 4 days in a row where I really, really tried to wake up, but I just can't. Like, I can't physically make myself wake up. Like, stand up, sit up. I can't. And today I had help with my girlfriend. She said that I'm gonna like wake up by waking her up. Unfortunately, that works, but it's not good for her because like it's gonna disrupt her sleep. I don't want that. Yeah, I want her to sleep properly. So I'm not gonna rely on her. But I'm really thankful that it worked. You know. What else? So yeah. I really want this to work. I really want to consistently wake up at 6 a.m. first. Then at least I have half of the equation correct already. I am gonna like try to sleep at 10 a.m. But I feel like if I prioritize waking up consistently and then my sleep schedule is still very mixed, I feel like the lack of sleep is gonna catch up to me. Like eventually I'll be so tired that I really will need to like sleep be later than 6 a.m. just to compensate for the lost sleeping time, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. I hope that I can make it work somehow. But yeah, I'm just gonna try my best or whatever. Yeah, so what else? Uh yesterday was yeah, for the last 3 days actually. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I haven't been doing much. I did not work out. Um I attempted no, I did. In Wednesday, I did try to like jog, but not at 6 a.m. I did use the treadmill instead while working, and it was like what for 2 kilometers only when I'm expected to like run at 8. But whatever, at least I did something. And for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I Duolingoed whatever, like bare minimum, but I didn't learn like 4 new lessons. Um, I did not um develop my project, which is terrible. Uh, I did learn some like tutorial stuff again yesterday. I just started yesterday. And yesterday I also read Cracking the Code Review or something because I'm trying to prep myself into getting into big tech, whatever, you know. I'm also working uh on applying for jobs, networking. I created like I copied like a spreadsheet to track my job applications. Apparently, that's how things go. You know, you track a lot of things. I don't know. And I've been doing some lead code, not consistently, but I did manage to hit a couple of solutions. There was a tip which is kind of interesting, which is if you're beginning lead code, you are supposed to like skip. You're supposed to skip trying to figure out the solutions for now and instead focus on reading the solutions. Then, like maybe 100 codes later, you're supposed to actually try now because it it's sad if you don't know the algorithms, and it's just pathetic for you to try, to do it. It's a waste of time. It's better for you to focus on learning first and then trying the algorithms. But I feel like it's not in my vibes, I kind of want to try doing it myself because you knowing the algorithms beforehand feels like it's like a cheat code. It's not really from your mind, not from your critical thinking, but from your past experiences. I just don't feel like it's the way I want to approach things because in real life, look, the reason why people want you to do the algorithms is so that they can see how you approach a problem and try to optimize the solution in the best way possible. But hopefully, it was done in your own, you know, in your own thought process. Like, wouldn't it be better if the solution that you created was based from your own reasoning, your own thought process, instead of just a template of someone's work already, and then you just memorized it? It just feels wrong for me. But it is what it is. I guess I have to fucking memorize algorithms first. I have to know the law before you break the law. So yeah, I guess I'm doing that. I'm learning leak code stuff and making some projects. I'm kind of swamped at the moment because before I was just doing pure kata, like one project at a time. But now I'm doing like four at the same time, networking, making own projects, still in tutorial hell, applying for jobs, learning Duolingo. Oh my god, what the fuck? But yeah, I don't want to complain because I did a lot of shit when I was a kid before as well. So yeah, I don't wanna like sound like I'm whining or whatever. Uh, what else is new in life? Nothing really much happened to me for the past 3 days, which is kind of pathetic, to be honest. Other than me learning stuff, I did try to like reconnect with old friends, just because I feel like it's good for me mentally to like just talk with people and like rehydrate relationships, if for the lack of the better term. It just feels like a good way for you to like increase your morale, because lately I really have been feeling lonely because it's just me in the house all alone. So yeah, chatting helps. So I talked to Kenan, I talked to um Dusong, which is an old classmate, and I plan to like talk to other classmates like I haven't had contact in years. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It also helps in socialing. I feel like it's way easier for me now to like approach old friends. Before it's like such a gargantuous pressure or test for me, because I never had that kind of experience before. I'm still anxious and what the reaction of those old friends will be when I just suddenly show up and just chat like, "Hey, what's up?" You know. Thankfully, they're eager to chat to me. It's just I'm pretty happy with that. Like, hopefully they're happy with that as well. Like someone checked up on them or whatever. And I have been trying to build up like, self confidence, because a comment of my teacher said that I'm pretty good at things. It's just that I'm pretty much self-doubting myself every time. So it doesn't really show. Like, you really have to show it to people that you're smart, that that you're very good, you're talented. And I think that helps. My next objective is, when I jog, I'm gonna greet people whenever I see them, like, "Hey, good morning." I'm trying to find out what's the best way to greet people. Wouldn't it be weird if I just jog and like stare at them, smile, and say, "Hey, what the fuck? Is that the norm?" I'm not sure. I'm not gonna know for sure if I don't do it. There was this one time I was jogging at the middle of the it's like 9 p.m., 8 p.m. already because I didn't jog in the morning, so might as well just jog in the night, right? And then there's this girl. She's walking the same sidewalk. It's a very narrow sidewalk, so I have to like walk so I don't bump in. We don't bump into each other. And then um she like while I was jogging, she was just walking. Like we're walking in opposite directions, right? So we are facing each other. And then she she stepped out of the way to give way for me, and I wanna like greet her and say thank you and hey or something, whatever, smile. It's my first attempt. What ended up happening is like I wanted to look at her face, see her looking back, me smiling, and say hey, morning, or whatever, hey, thank you, or whatever. What ended up happening is that I looked at her, she kept looking down. I like lopsided, like looking at her while I was running. So I was like fucking staring at this girl, and she never looked back. So I looked like a fucking creep, like staring at a girl, dude, at the middle of a fucking night while jogging. Like I feel so bad. Like I feel like a fucking sexual I don't know. I feel like I sexually assaulted someone. I'm so sorry. And just awkward that way. I don't know. Should I say something like, hey, then look and say thank you? Or that would be too weird. That'll even add more. I don't know. I don't know these things. Fuck. Anyways, I've been yapping for like 20 minutes now. So I'm just gonna like work out now. I'm just really happy that I had the opportunity to actually wake up. Finally. I don't know if I had the energy to actually do the whole routine because eh, I'm pretty weak as of recent events for some reason. I'll try to not make it impact my performance, but I'm just gonna expect the worst. And I'm just only gonna give it like an hour, you know? If I don't make it in an hour, I'm not gonna finish the whole set and I'm just gonna move on with my life because I have other things to do as well. Yeah, so I'm just I'm gonna fill this up with water. Okie dokes. I'm using this rainbow shit now. Look at my bills, man. Oh, it's still shitty after all these years. But it is what it is. I don't have my earphones, unfortunately. So I guess I'm not using it. Whatever.
In this video, I'm going to show you how you can be so productive and get so much done in a single day that it feels illegal. I'll do this by sharing 3 powerful productivity principles that helped me to unlock this illegal level of productivity in my time in mid school, as well as helping me rank first for my postgrad studies. Now, these principles have worked not only for me, but for thousands of learners that I've taught this to from around the world, so they will work for you too. These 3 principles are: number 1, the Pareto principle; number 2, the Zeigarnik effect; and number 3, the championship mentality. And as a bonus, I'll also teach you a way to supercharge each of these 3 principles and use them in a way that I have never heard anyone else on YouTube talk about. So let's start with number 1, the Pareto principle. In my first year of university, when I was trying to enter into med school, I was studying 15 to 20 hours every single day, and a lot of that time was spent on doing my flashcards. I had, by the end of the year, over 4,000 flashcards for my papers, and I would be spending 5-6 hours every single day either preparing my flashcards or doing my flashcards. I had this Google sheet that had all the questions on it, and I would track how difficult I found it, and then how many times I got it wrong, and what priority it was. And I had this sort of elaborate system that I created for managing my flashcards. But at the end of the day, I found that my results were still not that consistent. I was still having to study a lot of hours just to get the grades that I got. And when I actually entered into medical school, that system was just completely unsustainable because the workload was 2, 3, 4 times what it was before. And the moral of the story here is that at the end of the day, it still wasn't enough. And the reason is because what I was focusing and spending my time on, which was just optimizing my flashcards, wasn't the thing that was going to make the biggest difference. And this is really what the Pareto principle is about. Sometimes it's called the 80-20 rule. And the idea is that 80% of the benefit or the impact of something can come from 20% of the time or effort or work. And when you focus your time and attention on the other side, the 80% of things that produce 20% of the impact, it leads to a lot of wasted time, a lot of frustration. It's very annoying and it's very stressful. And that's really how I felt during those first couple of years. And I think a great example to illustrate the Pareto principle is if you think about your health. There are so many things that you can do to optimize your health, like the amount that you sleep, what you're drinking, how often you're drinking, what foods you're eating, the specific micro and macronutrient balance you have, the type of exercise, the frequency of your exercise, the way that you support yourself in recovery after the exercise, You can take additional like supplements and you can do meditation. This list is so exhaustive. Like that's the entire industry, right? But really, if you just get 20% of those things right, like if you have good sleep, you're drinking, and you're eating reasonably well, and maybe you're doing some kind of light exercise, it doesn't matter the frequency, exactly what you're doing, just do something sometimes, you're 80% going to be there to being pretty healthy and feeling really good about yourself. And when you focus on the other 80% of the things, like you can take every supplement there is off the shelf, but if you're not getting that 20% right, and your sleep is not good, and you're not drinking regularly, then you're going to suffer. Like it doesn't matter what the other 80% is. And so this is really important when it comes to productivity, because productivity is all about how you manage limited resources. The number one resource that's limited being your time. You have the same number of hours in a day as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo did. And so figuring out what's worth doing and what's not worth doing is really the key. And I think a powerful way of thinking about this Pareto principle is not that 20% of the things you do contribute to 80% of the results, but it's an understanding. If you have a list of 10 things that you need to get done, what it means is that 8 of those 10 things are essentially going to be a waste of time compared to figuring out what the 2 that really make the most impact are, and then spending your time absolutely crushing those. And I think of the Pareto principle as the fundamental pillar of all productivity, because the impact that the Pareto principle has is that it allows you to stack your gains. So I want you to imagine that this circle represents you, and then this cross represents the goal that you want to achieve. When we just do everything, and we don't strictly prioritize exactly where we want to spend our time and what's going to help us get 80% of the way to our goal, we end up doing this. We spend a lot of time doing lots of things, moving in many different directions. And at the end of the day, despite being very busy, we're still not very close to our goal. Once we use the Pareto principle, what happens is that we figure out what the things are that take us towards the goal, and it means in the same amount of time or effort, or even less, we're able to achieve our goal. And when you look at someone that's using the Pareto principle day in, day out in their life, and you see someone living like this is the type of person you look at and you think, man, this person is focused. This person has clarity. This person knows the direction they're going. Everything for them feels like it's all laid out. You can see that they're moving purposefully towards their goal, and you wonder how it is that they make it look so easy to get so much done and be so productive while you are just squandering. And when you look at the person that is doing this, they're not using the Pareto principle. They're spending their time across the entire 100%. Then they're very, very busy. They are floundering. They're a person just treading water. You can see they are flustered. They're not, potentially they're falling behind. And despite being so busy, they are wondering why they don't seem to be getting any closer to the goal. So here's the key takeaway for using the Pareto principle. The first thing is to actually spend time planning and prioritizing upfront. If you're really busy and you feel like you don't have enough time to plan and prioritize or use the Pareto principle and figure out what is that 20% that produces the impact, then let me tell you this. If planning is costly, not planning is more costly. Nothing is going to kill your productivity more than spending time on things that are a waste of time. But you have to spend the time up front to figure out what is or is not a waste of time. And this is the second takeaway, is that good prioritization feels bad. Here's a part that most people overlook. If you've got a list of things to do, the items that make it onto your to-do list are already fairly important. If someone says, hey, have you ever thought about learning how you can juggle flaming swords, riding a unicycle while making an origami crane using your tongue? Then you might say, no, I've never thought about doing that, and I'm probably never going to think about doing that. And unless your future career path is that of a very niche circus performer, that item is never going to be important enough to be on your to-do list. Everything that's on our to-do list has already been filtered and shortlisted out, and we have made the decision, this is important enough for me to do. And so what that means is that when you go through and figure out the 80% of the things that are not really getting you towards your goal, that are making the biggest impact out of all the other things that you could be doing, it's going to feel bad to take them off your list because you are acutely aware of what you are losing. By not doing this, I am losing out on this, and that feels bad. And so I want to normalize and let you know that when you're prioritizing well, it should feel bad because that means you're making the difficult decisions about what you're willing to lose strategically that helps you spend the time in the way that gets you to your goal. And my final point is to think holistically. Productivity is not just about doing work or studying or planning. Prioritization is about everything you spend your time on. And that means taking a break, spending time with loved ones, engaging in your hobbies, getting good sleep. These are all things that help sustain and rejuvenate you. Productivity is anything that helps you get towards your goal. And if you're 3 weeks into a sprint of not having had any breaks and you've just been studying and working the entire time and you're feeling like you're burning out, then the thing that is going to get in the way of you achieving your goal is the fact that you're burning out or that you're too tired. And so choosing to ignore self-care and recovery is an incredibly unproductive decision. And again, making that decision can feel bad because it's not clearing my backlog of work and study that I need to do. I'm just sitting there resting, wasting time. But you have to recognize it's not a waste of time. It's actually very productive. And so if you just use this principle, just the Pareto principle, as I've told you, and nothing else, already for a lot of you, this is going to 2 to 3x your productivity pretty much immediately. But now I'll tell you how you can supercharge this in a way that no one really talks about. And just to be clear, it's the supercharging of this that makes this feel illegal. We can turn the Pareto principle into the Pareto squared principle. What this means is that you can actually apply the Pareto principle to itself. So let's say that of this list of 10 items here, we figured out the 2 that get us towards our goal in the highest possible impact. Well, if we were to take those 2 and we were to break them up, we'd find that these 2 tasks have components to it. So let's just say that each of these tasks have 5 components. Well, of these 5 components or subtasks that make up the 2 major tasks, 20% of these will contribute 80% of the impact. So let me say, for example, writing an essay is the major task. Well, if we break up this process of writing an essay, we might find that first we need to think of a plan. We need to be clear on the objectives of the essay. We need to write the main points. We need to then draft them, and then we need to refine it. Let's say that that's your process for writing an essay. Well, of this, your initial first step, the planning, is the thing that's going to make your essay the best. Whatever you plan affects what you write and how you draft it. And so if there's errors in your planning, those errors get carried forward. Or a common one is if there's a big decision that you need to make. Well, one of the things that helps you make a really good decision is just having more information to make a good decision. So just the first step of collecting more information, or even writing down the things you need more information about that would help you make a better decision. That is the 20% that helps you with the remaining 80%. And so by using not just the Pareto principle, but the Pareto squared principle, the additional benefits this gives is that, first of all, this actually reduces your procrastination. Because the task that you're focusing on is no longer this huge, big, overwhelming task. You're focusing on this tiny first initial step. And number 2, because you're prioritizing it so strictly, it also increases your success rate. By focusing on the most important part of a task, it ensures that you're doing the most important part to a high quality. And once you do this part, the rest of it becomes much easier, which again reduces procrastination even more. And so the takeaway for the Pareto squared principle is to spend even more time by figuring out the 20% of the 20% to identify your most important task. And by the way, for those of you that are interested, if you do the maths on the Pareto squared principle, what that works out to is 4% of your time being used to create 64% of the total impact towards your goal. And if you compare someone that's not using these principles, which is this guy here, and you compare yourself to this person who's using all of their time doing all of their tasks, what this person is able to achieve in 2.5 months, you can do by the end of the week. That is what the Pareto squared principle unlocks. And by the way, if your goal is to be more productive, then one of the highest priority tasks, one of the 4% of things that produce the major impact, is to create a learning system. Learning is the mega skill. It's the tide that lifts all boats. It's the wish for more wishes. When you become a better learner, every skill becomes easier to learn and you become more productive. And to help you become a better learner, I've created a free learning system assessment for you. This quiz evaluates your current learning system and it gives you a score out of 100 based on its effectiveness. More importantly, you also get a personalized report that tells you which parts of your learning system are holding you back. It basically tells you exactly what is the 20% in your learning that if you were to
And let's try to do that. You're mean. That's all I need. What the fuck? How stupid is this? What the fuck? Sorry about that. Oh. Oh. Shit. Fucking idiot. Stupid. Isn't this super easy? Fucking no. Oh, my bad. It's not. It just means you're super fucking smart, skis. Validated. Let's go. Okay. should work. Oh, wait, hold on. Right. It's divided again. Ceiling? How do you say? Seal. My bad, bloody. Seal. It's a thing that I need to put. And spending every day in you. And here it goes, I'm and divided by 2. Minecraft jackass. Actually, kind of cute. This works. No, wait. How the fuck does that work?
How's it going, guys? My name is Dom, and today I'm going to show you how to use sets in JavaScript. So a set is very similar to an array. However, with a set, you can't store duplicate values. So for example, in an array, you can say 1, 1, 5, and that's perfectly fine. In a set, you can't have 2 ones in a single set. That's the main difference. So we can make a set by just saying const my set equals new set. And that will make a fresh, empty set. Now we can add values to this set by calling the add method down here. We'll just comment this and say add value. Now we can say my set.add. Inside here, you pass in the value to add to this set. For example, we can add the number 60. We can also add the number 21 and 56, for example. Now, we can also add objects to the set, as well as strings or booleans or anything. So you can add multiple different data types to a single set. That's perfectly fine. For example, my set.add an object. Let's add this object right here, name, Dom, and age 24. That's not real, by the way, but yeah. Alright, we can also add a string, for example, decode, and also a floating point number. Let's just add 67.98. Beautiful. Alright, so now we have a few items inside this set. Now, how do we find out how big this set is? How many elements do we have? We can call the size property on this set. For example, we can say console.log. How big is my set? We can just say my set.size. Let's now save this one, go to the browser, and refresh. How big is my set? 6. Okay? Let's just log out the entire set itself, so we can just say console.log and pass in my set. Let's save that one, back in the browser, refresh, and we see the set object right there. 6 elements and 6021, and then so on. Okay? How do we know if a set has a particular value inside it? We can use the has method to do this. So we'll just actually comment this out. We can say find size of set, and also check for value. So we can say this with console.log. Does the set contain the number 25? We can then say my set.has 25. So the has method returns true or false, depending on if it has a number that you pass in, or the value you pass in. Let's save that, refresh, and we get false, because 25 is not in this set. Back here again, we can delete an item from the set by using the delete method. For example, delete item. We can say my set.delete decode. So now decode is deleted from the set. Now, we can loop through the set by using a simple for of loop. Down here, say loop through the sets, and we can say for let item of my set. Now, item will be each of these individual values right here, and it's going to loop through the set, and we can use item each time. So we can say console.log item. Okay, let's save that one. Go back in the browser, and we can use item each time. So we can say console.log item. Okay, let's save that one. Go back in the browser, refresh. We see 60, 21, and so on, but we don't see decode because decode was deleted from the set. Okay. Now we can also convert a set into an array. So down here we can just say convert to array. And we can just put our constant my array equals array.from my set. So we're using the from function on the array object to convert the set into an array. We can now log out the array. We can say console.log my array. Let's get rid of the set for now. Okay, get rid of that. Save it, and then refresh the browser. And we see an array with all the same values that were inside the set that we made before. Alright, so that's how you can use the set object in JavaScript. Thank you for watching, and see you later.
I knew about sets now. Cool. Cool. And I wasted my time. Good job. I forgot I need to work out. I fucked up. Because I don't know any of these things. I don't know there's a function called set.
Just saying const my set equals new set. And that will make a fresh empty set. You can add values to dot add into anything. So you can add multiple different data types to a single set. That's perfectly fine. For example, my set dot add an object. Let's add this object right here, name, Dom, and age 24. That's not real, by the way, but yeah. Alright, we can also add a string, for example, decode, and also a floating point number. Let's just add 67.9. Beautiful. Alright, so now we have a few items inside this set. Now, how do we find out how big this set is? How many elements do we have? We can call the size property on this set. For example, we can say console.log. How big is my set? We can just say my set.size. Let's now save this one, go to the browser, and refresh. How big is my set? 6. Okay? Let's just log out. The entire set itself, so we can just say console.log and pass in my set. Let's save that one, back in the browser, refresh, and we see the set object one. So we can just console.log and pass in my set. Let's save that one, back in the browser, refresh, and we see the set object one. 6 elements and 6021, and then so on. Okay. How do we know if a set has a particular value inside it? We can use the has method to do this. So we'll just actually comment this out. We can say find the size of the set and also check for value. So we can say this console.log does the set contain the number 25. We can then say my set dot has 25. So the has method returns true or false depending on if it has a number that you pass in or the value you pass in. Let's save that, refresh, and we get false because 25 is not in this set. Back here again, we can delete an item from the set by using the delete method. For example, delete item. We can say my set dot deletes decode. So now decode is deleted from the set. Now we can loop through the set by using a simple for of loop. Down here, say loop through sets, and we can say for let item of my set. Now item will be each of these individual values right here, and it's going to loop through the set, and we can use item each time. We see 60, 21, and so on, but we don't see decode because decode was deleted from the set. Okay? Now we can also convert a set into an array. So down here we can just say convert to array, and we can just put out constant my array equals array dot from my set. So we're using the from function on the array object.
A lot
values that were inside this set that we made before.
If you were to improve, gives you 80% of the results. I highly recommend giving it a go, and it is free. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. So the first thing was the Pareto principle, and that helps you to prioritize your tasks. But once you've got your 20% or your 4%, the other issue we run into is procrastination. There's no point prioritizing the 4% if you never actually do it. Fortunately, this is where the second pillar comes in, and this is called the Zeigarnik effect. And I probably use the Zeigarnik effect every single day. After my 5th year of medical school, I decided to take a year of doing honors research. And so this was my first time doing my own research. And the first part of doing research is what's called a literature review, which is where you're reading through all the research within a field and then you're writing this big report based on it. And I was starting this in the summer holidays. I started off really enthusiastic and really keen, but because I'd never really written such a lengthy literature review before, and it was a topic that I honestly wasn't that interested in, I found myself putting it off and procrastinating on it for weeks. In fact, it got so bad that after the first month, where I hadn't done anything, my supervisor actually emailed me to say, like, hey, Justin, are you still keen on this project? Because you seemed really enthusiastic, but you actually haven't shown me anything. And so I was like, oh crap, I need to produce something to show my supervisor. And so for the next 3 days, I really quickly got some stuff together that just makes it look like I've been working on things, and then I sent it to her. And what I found was that even though I wasn't doing the literature review properly, and I was just creating something to send to my supervisor, the very fact that I started on this process made me feel more motivated to keep going with it. And so the next day I did more and more and more and more and more until eventually I'd actually just done the entire literature review. And so it was just that first step, as we all know, that helps to break procrastination. And this is what the Zeigarnik effect is about. The Zeigarnik effect says that a task is easier to complete when it is left incomplete. The idea is that when there's this incomplete task, we want to finish it off. It stays
All right. Okay, Google, start a run. Extending your Android app to Android Wear smartwatch.
I'm just gonna finish just one set, and then I'm done. Because I done my side bends. I just need to hammer them, apparently.
Already waiting for our best hero list for season 36, and I've also seen many posts saying they're really struggling in solo rank right now. So in this video, I'm not just going to tell you the best heroes to carry in solo rank. I'll also show you how to carry games even when your teammates are Dark System. Let's start with the solo rank monster, Masha. She's literally a beast in solo queue because her skill set is built for 1 versus 1 situation. No matter which EXP lane you face, Masha can easily melt them down since her skill 1 deals damage based on the enemy's max HP plus her physical attack. And shout out to this guy, yeah, Dirog is strong in 1 versus 1 early game, but Masha is proving me wrong. Plus, her skill 2 reduces the enemy's attack speed by 50%, giving her an even bigger advantage in pure basic attack duels. Check out how Alucard gets surprised when I use my skill 4 to recover 1 HP bar and outplay him, even with him using Vengeance. Even a duo will run when they see Masha charging in this fast, because there's no way to stop her. You'll likely need a burst damage that can quickly drain her HP, because Masha can easily remove all crowd control effects right after losing an HP bar. Even under your tower, you're not safe if there's a Masha on the enemy team. Even Carl Teasy from Liquid PH was surprised by how strong Masha is. It's funny because Carl is godlike with 30 kills in this match, but Masha can still take him down easily. To carry your team using Masha, just stay relaxed in the early game. Wait until you get your ultimate and first item, especially if you're up against heroes like Cece, who are hard to get close to. Once you have your item, you can now fight back and go for a kill. I usually go for Hephaestus' first item, but if you're up against a sustained hero, go straight for Sea Howler. For the emblem, I use the newly buffed Temporal Rain to reduce the cooldown of skill 1 after using Masha's ult, and it's better compared to Lethal Ignition because most of Masha's power comes from first skill 1. For the item build, you can swap some items for BOD for instant -1 enemy, but if the enemy can burst you down easily, go for Rose Gold or Immortality. As for the emblem, Lethal Ignition and Impure Rage are still good options if you prefer them. And here's the build I'm using. Skypiercer is really great for Masha. Another monster in solo rank is Freya, who can also beat Masha in the late game. Freya also dominates solo rank, and is often one trick to reach Mythical Immortal because she's super strong. Even pros ban this hero in ranked matches because she can wipe out all 5 enemies by herself. But if the enemy has too much crowd control, it's better to go for Masha since Freya relies heavily on basic attacks and has no skills to remove stuns. And if it happens that the enemy has no skill to stop Freya, she will completely dominate the game, and even pros ban this hero in ranked matches because she can wipe out all 5 enemies by herself. But if the enemy has too much crowd control, it's better to go for Masha since Freya relies heavily on basic attacks and has no skills to wipe out all 5 enemies by herself. But if the enemy has too much crowd control, it's better to go for Masha since Freya relies heavily on basic attacks and has no skills to remove stuns. And if it happens that the enemy has no skill to stop Freya, she will completely dominate the game, and even the turret can't save you from her extremely painful basic attacks. This is because her passive grants 200% attack speed for her next 2 basic attacks after casting a skill, which is super easy to trigger since her skill 2 has no cooldowns. And if it happens that the enemy has no skill to stop Freya, she will completely dominate the game, and even the turret can't save you from her extremely painful basic attacks. This is because her passive grants 200% attack speed for her next 2 basic attacks after casting a skill, which is super easy to trigger since her skill 2 has no cooldown as long as there's someone to hit. You can also follow up skill 1 right after the 3rd phase of skill 2 to speed up the animation and catch enemies off guard. The reason I prefer them in the XP lane is that you have a better chance of winning since, aside from your jungle acting as a core, you will also act as a core while laning in the XP lane. It's different from the high ranks where the XP lane becomes a semi-tank initiator in the mid to late game. And meta XP lanes, like Hylos, Hilda, and Lucas, don't perform well in lower ranks because late game damage heroes that can easily wipe out your team are the usual picks in that bracket. And it's so like Hylos, Hilda, and Lucas don't perform well in ranks where the XP lane becomes a semi-tank initiator in the mid to late game. And meta XP laners, like Hylos, Hilda, and Lucas, don't perform well in lower ranks because late game damage heroes that can easily wipe out your team are the usual picks in that bracket. And it's hard to constantly protect your team when using a tanky XP laner. So better to use damage dealing XP laners to climb out of this rank. And also, people say Sun is also a strong hero in solo rank. And yeah, he can be. But he's not as powerful as the 2 I mentioned earlier. You usually have to wait until the late game to see Sun's true power. Now in the mid lane, we have here the newly buffed Pharsa. With her wings by wings being faster and her passive triggering quicker, Pharsa has become one of the best mages to use, whether in solo, duo, trio, or even 5-man. Because of that buff, she can now rotate faster across the map and help other lanes that need assistance more quickly. The impact it can create on the match is huge, because just being present in crucial skirmishes and clashes can instantly boost your chances of winning by providing assistance to all your allies. Aside from her insane damage, her ultimate skill range is so long that enemies will have a hard time getting close to you. That's why she's one of the mages who can easily carry games right now. Next, still in the meta, Cecilio. Nope. Change to Cecilio. He's still one of the toughest mages to deal with. Cecilian's passive is the reason he can carry the team even as a mage. So if you're behind early, just stay calm and keep stacking until you hit the late game with tons of stacks. He's also super easy to use, so you won't have a hard time playing him. And just into the meta, and already dominating rank matches, we've got Selena on the list. Selena is also a strong mid lane carrier that can easily take over games. It's because Selena's skill cast speed in both forms was increased, making her much smoother to use, although her max stun duration was reduced to 2.5 seconds. The main problem with Selena compared to the first 2 heroes is that, aside from being a bit complex, landing your arrows is extremely important. Especially in the late game, where every arrow is crucial. If you keep missing them, your Selena will become useless. That's why some players go for max cooldown builds to spam arrows, but you still need to aim them properly. And also, Selena's clearing capability is now faster, allowing you to rotate more efficiently. In rank matches, it's better to play Selena in mid, because roam Selena is too risky. I've encountered too many Selena roam players who were useless in the game. Not only do they keep missing arrows, but you also lose a solid frontline and a reliable stun, relying purely on whether the arrow hits during rotations. Now, let's talk about Shushu, who just got adjusted. Opinions are split among players who tried her after her adjustments. A lot of players are saying her mana drains too fast, and she's not as strong as she used to be. And yeah, you'll immediately feel how fast Shushu's mana drains just after using skill 2 for a few seconds. But what if I told you she's now even better for solo play than before? I was surprised too, but once you try her, you'll realize that the adjustment isn't a nerf. They boosted her skill 2 damage in exchange for higher mana consumption, so you don't need to chain multiple airborne anymore. Just one is almost as strong as 2 throws before. You will notice in this game how aggressive my Shushin is here. And in the 2 games I tried her, I can still feel Shushin's potential. She's still insanely strong in my opinion. And I can say this because in this match, I completely dominated and carried my team since our core alpha, who was supposed to counter Suyu, wasn't doing well. On the enemy team, it was Suyu doing the heavy lifting, making it feel like a Shushin versus Suyu showdown to see who could carry harder. My strategy in situations like this is to focus on the strongest enemy, because they carry the most dangerous threat and can easily wipe out my teammates. So in this match, I locked my focus on Suyu. At this moment, my teammates were starting to catch up, even though the enemy still had more kills. And since our core was dead, I needed to keep Suyu from getting close. In the late game, I managed to carry my team. So overall, I'd still include Shushin on the list because I can still feel her superiority as a mage. For Roam, we've got Hylos. Though he received multiple nerfs, he remains a solid pick on solo rank. And this is because he's such a complete package as a tanky roamer. He has a speed boost and stun from his skill 1, slow, damage, and attack speed reduction from his skill 2, and glorious pathway for solid teamfight engagement with a huge AoE effect that can provide movement speed to allies while slowing enemies. These types of roamers dominate solo rank because they can be present even in the gold lane or jungle. They're not just about crowd control and being a frontline. They can also deal serious serious damage. Center tanks like Tigreal are good, but your allies aren't always there to finish off the enemies. That's why it's better to go for roamers that can deal damage. The most important thing when using heroes like this is not to dive in too deep. Just because you're tanky and deal damage doesn't mean you're immortal. Another roamer with solid damage is Jawhead, who's pretty popular right now. Jawhead's pick-off capability as a roamer is super solid, and what's even better is that you can choose to go full tank or semi-tank and still deal a good amount of damage. Look at how easily he can get close and take down the enemy gold laner. Jawhead can even melt down tanks because the damage from his missiles is really devastating. Another one is Gacha, who is still a very solid pick. His passive is kind of crazy since it gives up to 100 physical defense based on how much HP he's lost. And the best part, his ultimate is a reliable setup tool, making him a great initiator in team fights. Meanwhile, Estus is also great for solo rank because most players don't know how to deal with him. They just keep charging in, even though they know Estus can heal back all the damage they dish out. There's even a technique where you just stick with your core or marksman, and the enemies can't do anything about it. They'll be too focused on their own thing, not realizing that Estus has already made the carry unstoppable. Now for gold laners, Granger is number 1 on our list and still super strong despite his recent nerf. Granger is still really tough to match in the lane because once he gets his ultimate, his damage becomes incredibly painful. On top of that, the damage from his skill 1 feels so unfair because not only is it painful, but it also seems endless. In the pro scene, Granger maintains a 100% retention rate, meaning he's either always picked or banned. Hopefully, in the next updates, Granger gets nerfed again, so other marksmen have a chance to shine. And while he's not nerfed, if he's not banned, you should always prioritize picking Granger if you're a gold laner. Irithel is a marksman often picked as a counter to Granger, and she can definitely hold her own against him. But if you've mastered Granger, even Irithel won't be enough to stop it. And of course, still in the meta and super overpowered, we have Herrick. Although playing Herrick in the gold lane is harder than usual for most players, since it takes a lot of practice to perfect his only dash, once you get the hang of it, you'll realize just how powerful Herrick can be. Herrick can easily take over games when played correctly, making him a deadly threat in the late game. That's why he remains a popular pick even in the pro scene. Just like Granger, Herrick is also really strong in the laning phase, because his skill 1, Synchro Vision, deals a good amount of damage. If you want to learn more about Herrick, I've already made an in-depth guide that includes tips and tricks to master it. And just entering the meta after his buff, we have Brody. For those who haven't noticed, Brody has actually received 2 consecutive buffs. The most recent one reduced the backswing on his skills, meaning he can now move faster after casting them. Unlike usual, you'll often see who are marksmen who can carry games on his own. If you think about it, even though his range is relatively short, Moskov's skills are a complete package. He has a blink that boosts his attack speed and a stun that lasts surprisingly long for a marksman. And the best part is, with every basic attack, their cooldown will be reduced by 0.5 seconds. And these 2 skills are also the reason why he's hard to kill. They give him both mobility and survivability, and will allow Moskov to carry his teammates effectively. Add to that his map presence due to his global ultimate, which let's be honest, Mia's late game capabilities are insane. Even if she has a rough early game, she still becomes incredibly strong later on, as you can immobilize her. So Mia is definitely not to be underestimated, even after her nerf. Of course, we can't forget about Layla, another big threat would become popular because of it. Aside from the fact that Lucas's shockwave can now damage all enemies it hits, its damage was also greatly increased, almost double. That's why Lucas is an absolute threat in ranked matches right now. Not to mention that his ultimate increases all his attributes by 15%, and his first skill cannot be interrupted. I'm pretty sure the upcoming Naruto collab sale will definitely be successful, especially with Lucas being super overpowered right now. And honestly, there are so many junglers that can easily carry games in solo rank, like these 4 assassins that are always in the top bans. But even though they're often banned, you should still learn how to use them, especially if you're a jungler. The only problem with them compared to fighter junglers is that they require practice because they're squishy and rely heavily on mechanics and fast movements, like Joy, whose skills are simple to understand, but require a lot of practice to truly carry games. And of course, there's Fanny, the hardest hero to use in MLBB. But once mastered, she becomes an absolute monster in solo rank. But remember, don't practice her in ranked matches, or you'll just end up throwing games. Hayabusa is easier to use compared to the previous 2, but he's also the most banned assassin, so he's rarely open in ranked matches. And it's obvious that Hayabusa is insanely strong in solo rank, which is why he was recently nerfed, but it turned out to be a hidden buff instead. His ultimate's damage actually increased, probably because of his upcoming Kakashi skin. Hanzo also got nerfed, but he remains incredibly strong since his ultimate now has a shorter cooldown at the cost of higher energy consumption. His trade-off actually works in his favor, as he can spam his ult more often. Plus, enemies tend to burst it down as soon as they spot it anyway. But if you're looking for a jungler who isn't banned as often as the previous 4, Julian is a solid option. Although Julian's main role was changed to assassin to prevent the abuse of Rose Gold's effect, he's still incredibly strong as a core. And even before the new Rose Gold was introduced, he was already a powerful pick. This is because Julian is super versatile and has powerful skills that let him adapt to any matchup, whether he's ahead or behind. Even without a gold lead, he can still dish out insane damage and sustain in fights. His enhanced skill 1 is also terrifying in the early game because it melts anyone who gets hit, making him a serious threat right from the start. And his enhanced skill 2 is perfect for outplaying enemies, still working well with Rose Gold, even though he only gets half of its effect now. And of course, there's Suyu, another incredibly strong pick who doesn't get banned as often. Suyu is one of the heroes in the pro scene that never gets ignored. Either he's picked or banned, because he's just that strong. His immortal form, or the one with Susanoo, is extremely powerful because it increases his basic attack damage to 125%, while also granting him 20% damage reduction up to 40%. That's why, even early on, Suyu's damage can be crazy, making him a real headache to deal with. Aside from his damage and sustainability, he also has a stun and a ton of mobility with his dashes. And when you think about it, his skills are just way too overpowered. He has the durability of a fighter, making him hard to burst down, and the speed of an assassin, so it's tough to catch him. Plus, he hasn't been nerfed yet, likely because of the upcoming Sasuke skin, which has everyone hyped. I also want to mention Karina because I rarely see her on lists of the best heroes, and I honestly don't know why. But for me, she's one of the strongest junglers in solo, especially if your enemies rely heavily on basic attack. It's also terrifying when you're up against a Karina, especially if you're using a squishy hero. Escaping becomes incredibly tough because her presence is just so overwhelming. Aside from that, Karina is much easier to use compared to the other assassins I mentioned earlier. You just need to get close to the enemy, and she can quickly take them down. Another one is Alice, whose overall win rate has been rising lately due to the insane sustain she gets from her ultimate. It's become harder to take her down, given that many other heroes have been nerfed, which is why Alice is making a strong comeback in the meta. Lastly, there's Alpha, who is capable of handling a 1 versus 5 situation, so we can't leave him out of this list. I've also created a guide for him, and if you haven't watched it yet, you can check it out on our channel. Special mention to YSS and Alucard, who can also carry games on their own. And although we have a video about Kalea in the XP lane, Roam Kalea is still the better pick for solo rank due to her pick-off and healing capabilities. Meanwhile, even though Badang was nerfed, he is still a great choice for roaming. But don't forget that counter picks and comfort picks are better than meta picks, so becoming comfortable with meta picks and counter picks will definitely get you to higher rank. Kalea is still the better pick for channel. Special mention to YSS and Alucard, who can also carry games on their own. And although also created a guide for him, and if you haven't watched it yet, you can check it out on our channel. Special mention to YSS and Alucard, who can also carry games on their own. And although we have a video about Kalea in the XP lane, Roam Kalea is still the better pick for solo rank due to her pick-off and healing capability.
Are you tired of your hero? Very strong EXP laner with great damage output and a powerful frontliner, making him a very flexible hero. Although I spent a good amount of time in practice, invulnerability in his. To counter him, there are very few options like using anti-blink heroes or someone like Esmeralda who can. Else, she will just easily survive any keep composition compared to others. A perfect round as well as being the front line of the team. Not to mention the penalty zone, which just punishes, making him a formidable force in the fighter with his strong damage and mobility. This skill set allows him to out-maneuver and out-damage his opponents, making him a formidable force in the enemy match. Mastering his combos will make you a top-tier fighter in Mobile Legends. We have already made a full video covering almost all combos he can perform. When you know all the possibilities of Pakito's combo and the art of taking down anyone, you won't even consider looking for another hero to dominate your enemies. It's really hard to counter him unless he's good in some serious crowd control skills, making him another hard to counter hero in MLB. Use this build and take down anyone you want with heavy hurting jabs. So guys, what do you think? Will you be using and mastering these heroes? Which heroes did you think I missed out on? Comment down all your thoughts below. So that will be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Keep supporting Kazuki Official.
Top 10 heroes in Mythical Glory as of January 27. Pick rate, Cecilia takes the top spot with a 4.9% pick rate. Ban rate, Fanny leads the pack with a point advantage over Zushin. Win rate, Freya sits at the top, edging out Diggy by a point. Top 10 heroes in Mythical Glory as of January 27. Pick rate, Cecilia takes the top spot with a 90% rate. Ban rate, Fanny leads the pack with a point advantage over Zushin. Freya sits at the top, edging out Diggy.
Five heroes fight are best to carry the team. Wins. 5. Martis. With his crowd control and high damage output, Martis can dominate team fights and secure kills efficiently. 4. Freya. Freya's durability and damage make her a formidable fighter, capable of sustaining in battles and dealing significant damage. 3. Yin. Yin's unique ability to isolate and eliminate enemies makes him a strong pick for solo plays, allowing him to take out key opponents. 2. Aldous. Known for his powerful burst damage, Aldous can quickly eliminate key targets, making him a strong carry in late-game scenarios. 1. Alpha. Alpha's continuous damage and healing abilities allow him to stay in fights longer and contribute consistently to team engagements. 5 heroes fight are best.
This is Xerato, the top 1 global user. His rank is Mythical Immortal 331 stars and has a 91% win rate this season. Against Terizla, Xerato's first core item is War Axe. The true damage from this item helps him getting a health advantage on prolonged fights against Terizla in the early game. Also, the spell vamp provided by War Axe is important when facing sustained fighters like Terizla if the opponent plays safely under the tower, and Xerato already has a completed War Axe. He just starts cutting the lane in order to rotate to other lanes. This is because he has Petrify as his battle spell, which boosts his solo kill potential. For the second core item, he buys Hunter Strike, combined with the War Axe. This would give him 20% 20% cooldown reduction, making it easier to spam Yuzong's skills. And the penetration it gives is also nice in the early game to easily burst squishy targets. As for Zeratu's full item build, this is what he uses. And for the emblem, it's Fighter with Thrill, Festival of Blood, and Quantum Charge. This is Zeratu, the top 1 global Yuzong. His rank is Mythical Immortal 331 stars and has a 91% win rate this season. Against Terizla, Zeratu's first core item is War Axe. The true damage from this item helps in getting a health advantage on prolonged fights against Terizla in the early game. Also, the spell vamp provided by War Axe is important when facing sustained fighters like Terizla. If the opponent plays safely...